New York. We had a caller from Brooklyn who had a concern.
So I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
But talked about some of the
there it is. Looks like we have sound now. Sorry about that. But I'm broadcasting live from the C-SPAN website.
In the first place in New York.
And hopefully you guys can hear this stuff out.
And I don't know if the gentleman explained much of his background, but he must be in security.
But I think they're voting on amending it at this point. So there's a 15-minute break, and then there's going to be another 5-minute break. And then I guess they decide as to whether or not they're going to go ahead and vote on the bill or not. But we'll see. But right now they're taking calls. So I'm going to shut up so you guys can listen to some of this conversation from people calling in.
William, go ahead.
And I believe this legislation should pass because I live very close to the Pennsylvania border in the southern tier of New York.
Yeah.
So it's very, very easy for me to cross into Pennsylvania almost on a daily basis because I live, within 10 minutes of a line. So in fact, I'm in the process of trying to get a Pennsylvania carry permit as well, so that I don't, because I am a law-abiding citizen, and I don't feel that a person that is going to commit a crime with their gun cares whether they have this type of legislation or not.
And under this legislation that the House has been debating this afternoon, it would allow people with concealed carry permits in one state to go into another state that allows concealed carry as well. That's part of the bill. The bill would also expand the background check system, in particular with federal agencies, and call for the Judiciary Committee, the Justice Department rather, to do a study on bump stocks. The Washington Post writes in the Senate, Democrats have labeled the concealed carry legislation a non-starter, while Senate Republicans caution that pairing the bills is a recipe for the demise of both. John Cornyn of Texas, the #2 Republican, quoted saying, when you put them together, it makes it harder for us to do what we can do and do it now. By the way, the Judiciary Committee in the Senate today considered some legislation, gun legislation, including efforts by Dianne Feinstein and others on expanding background checks. And we covered that today as well on the C-SPAN network. So you can see that later in our schedule and also at cspan.org. To Addison, Texas, on our Republican line, Eric, good afternoon.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thanks.
Well, I live in the great state of Texas, and I've got a concealed carry permit. I've been following this legislation and debate all afternoon. I've just got to say, these Democrats are barking up the wrong tree. With me being in Texas, a lot of us have concealed carry permits, and we're simply law-abiding citizens. I mean, you go look at the statistics. We commit far less crimes than police officers, and having that sense of protection that comes with having the gun on you, it just helps so much if you're in a sticky situation where the police are minutes away and they might not be able to save you. And you look at these senators who say, "Oh, it's the 5th anniversary of Sandy Hook." Sandy Hook was a very tragic event, but you got to think of the fact: if a few teachers were carrying guns, would the carnage be that severe? I would doubt that. A school district near my house in Argyle, Texas, they recently armed their teachers, and they posted signs outside their school door saying, "Deadly force authorized. Should you be an intrude or whatever." And I can tell you, there have been no problems. I mean, our city is very safe, our area is very safe, our state's very safe as a whole. But having that sign out there, that's so much of a deterrent than another sign that says gun-free zone. No one's allowed to carry. So that's just my take on it. I hope this legislation passes. And for me, myself, I'm a pilot. And when I travel to different states, I can't tell you the number of times I've got to look online and make sure where I go can be carried as far as my firearm is concerned.
And
so it should be like that.
Eric, you're a commercial pilot?
Commercial pilot, yes, sir.
Thanks for weighing in. Let's go to Rick in Peoria, Arizona. Independent line.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my call. I just wanted to let you know that I live in Arizona, which constitutional carry, which has real good gun laws. And I'm from Massachusetts, which I had a permit from 21 years old all the way up until I left there. And not to give you my age, but I'm 63 years old. So I've had a permit in 2 different states. One that was harder to get it than the one I'm in now. Well, you still have to qualify and do all that stuff in Arizona, just like you have to take a course.
Do you have to requalify every couple of years? Make sure you're still capable of understanding firing and using the weapon, the firearm.
When you put in for your permit, when you put in for a renewal, that's checked again to see if there's anything on, on the NICS or criminal background. I was a gun dealer in the state of Massachusetts. That was a very tough FFL to get, And I want to just explain one thing about the couple of people in New York. John Stossel had death threats on him, and he couldn't even get one in New York. And he is in the media, all right? A couple of years ago, some paper, I think it was newspaper or something, put in, which was a very bad act. They put in this, in the paper, all the people that have concealed carry weapons permits in New York. And where do you think first thing is a bad thing, because you have law enforcement. Nobody should know where a retired law enforcement guy lives, That's one thing, or judges or any of that kind of stuff. But it's ironic that the most gun permits were in Westchester County, which will not even let you hunt with a rifle or a shotgun. It's bow only. So these are all liberal people that don't want you to have what they have.
Reaction on Twitter as well. Here's Hillary tweeting, "We are watching." Elected officials need to know we are watching and will remember how they vote when they are up for re-election. Leslie says the legislation, CCR, bad for New Jersey, but another view. I'm a Democrat from California here. I think this HR 38 is great, much needed. Need to defend my family. Grand Prairie, Texas, our Democrats line, and this is Kermit. Hello there.
Hi. Yeah.
So it looks like the first 15 minutes has run out. Now, if they call it to a vote, the next 5 minutes will be for them to actually vote on HR 38. At this point, I've been trying to stay on top of it and figure out where we stand on it, whether or not we support it or not. The combination of the two, I think it was 4473 was the other one. They combined them together, and now it's a mess. It's ugly. It's a mess. Are there some Pro 2A things in there? Absolutely. Is it a complete loss if this thing passes? No, but do we support this? Is this what we want? Absolutely not. And at this point, they've created a circus out of it, and nobody knows who wins or loses. I don't think anybody comes out on top on this. It's almost like we're going to be right back at the same point where nothing is actually gained. So let's continue to listen and continue to watch this shit show, I guess. Oh, I used a bad word. Maybe YouTube will kill my channel. That's a whole nother story. It seems that today the Tactical Response YouTube channel was banned. Yeager was issued his 3rd strike. He posted up an interview that he had done with Bill Frady a few weeks ago. I guess in that video there was some strong language used, and YouTube took that opportunity to go ahead and issue him his 3rd strike in 3 months, thus banning his channel. I'm sure James and the team down there or up there at Tactical Response are going to appeal or request a review, and we'll see what happens. That sucks. And I know James, the James that I know, that I've met face to face, that I've shaken hands with, that I've spent hours with, good dude. I know that the James that some of you know from online probably don't perceive him the same way that I do. But beyond that, his channel is being impacted by this private entity called YouTube. And at this point now, it's just getting ridiculous, and we can't just sit back and watch them abuse us. And I will not be one of those guys on YouTube that says that it's YouTube against guns because they're doing this across the board to a lot of content creators in a lot of different genres. And we are focusing on the pro two-way crowd, the gun channels, the gun tubers, as a lot of people like to say, because that's what impacts us. That's what we actually spend most of our time on here on YouTube. So enough about that. Let's get back to this and see what these politicians actually do, if they do anything at all, because you know them. We can sit through an hour of this and they decided, you know what, let's put it off till next week. So
Right of protecting themselves or their families should end.
and again, they're still fielding calls from citizens from both the left and the right and those in the middle. So
we should be able to protect
take
ourselves, our families,
these opinions for
really,
what they are.
without
They're just
any
opinions. These
infringement on
are
our rights.
normal Americans like you and I.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to Hanford, California, and hear from Mike on the independent line.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for taking my call. I'm a certified NRA instructor, Department of Justice instructor in California, and I've watched my legislators in Sacramento take my rights left and right. And so this needs to be approved, as has been repeated numerous times. Concealed carriers tend to be the safest people out there, and it's something like a 0.0001% have ever gotten in any problem. So there's a lot of misstatements going on. And when the Democrats keep talking about allowing criminals to carry, they're already carrying. They're not going to wait for a concealed carry. And so we have criminals out there carrying, and I want to be able to keep my family safe.
All right, let's hear next from Macon, Georgia. Stephan on our Democrats line as the vote begins to wrap up. Go ahead, Stephan.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would like to say that some people have a very perverse understanding of the Second Amendment. I think when you look back to the Federalist number 29, Alexander Hamilton kind of lays out the original intent for it. And to the one caller speaking about your inherent right to self-defense, the Supreme Court did rule you have an inherent right to self-defense, but this is talking about concealed carry. I am a resident of Alabama. I have a concealed carry permit for Alabama. I'm former military, and I have engaged in high-risk training, so I'm very proficient with a handgun. And with that, I have knowledge that you just don't simply point and pull the trigger and the bullet's going to go where you want it to go. To gain this kind of skills takes years of dedication and training, and Alabama currently does not require any training, any safety requirements. It's merely just a background check and you pay a fee. I would ask people who are in favor of this to go to the range and do target practice, and let's see how accurate they are with the handgun. And then, you know, would you want someone who isn't hitting paper to be able to carry a handgun, and now they're going to be discharged and get it in situations where there's innocent bystanders nearby? Also, I think we need to address the issue that the CDC is no longer allowed to collect data on gun deaths. And it's great that we're throwing out all this data and all these statistics, but at the end of the day, you simply cannot say without a reasonable doubt that any of those statistics are accurate, because the federal government is barred from collecting data on gun-related deaths.
Some good information there, Stephan. We'll let you go there as the vote begins to wrap up on the motion to recommit, and it is not passing. They will vote next, final passage on the gun legislation. One more thought from Melina, who tweets, you can be arrested in New Jersey with a legally owned firearm unloaded in your vehicle. HR 38 is very much needed legislation. We'll see what happens. The final vote is next.
MD, I see you. B10 for life, for sure. Yes, for those of you that don't know what the reciprocity portion of this is, basically what this would force the states to do would be to acknowledge concealed carry permits issued in any state. So for instance, I live in Florida, I have a concealed carry permit. I also have one for Nevada. So that gives me coverage in a lot of states that one doesn't always cover. But the reciprocity would allow for you to legally possess and conceal carry a firearm in those states that typically do not allow you to do so. So I could visit New York with my concealed firearm and they wouldn't be able to do anything to me. I could drive through the state, through New Jersey. They wouldn't be able to do anything to me. So that's what the reciprocity, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Have all members voted? On this vote, the yeas are 190, the nays are 236. With the motion is adopted. The question is on passage of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Speaker,
The gentleman from New York.
and then I ask for a roll call, recorded vote.
The gentleman has asked for a recorded vote. A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 5-minute vote.
It is the final passage vote on a bill that is actually the combination of two bills. The bill would allow gun owners with concealed carry permits from one state to carry their firearms into another state with concealed carry laws. It also would call for expanded enforcement of laws involving the National Criminal Background Check System and require that federal agencies certify they have added relevant records to the NICS, and would also call for the Justice Department to study the use of bump stocks in the commission of a crime. 5-minute final passage vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 231, the nays are 198. The bill is passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from California, Mr. Royce, to suspend the rules and to agree to House Resolution 90 as amended, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the concurrent resolution.
House Concurrent Resolution 90, concurrent resolution condemning ethnic cleansing of the Rohingya and calling for an end to the attacks in and immediate restoration of humanitarian access to the state of Rakhine in Burma.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and agree to the concurrent resolution as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
By a vote of 231 to 198, the House passes a bill that does two things on gun legislation. It allows concealed carry permit holders from one state to carry their firearm into another state, also allowing concealed carry. It also would bolster full federal records in the national criminal background check system. 5-minute vote here, final vote of the day. Should be the final recorded vote of the day anyway. And the House back tomorrow, expected to take up federal spending for short-term federal spending, as the current short-term measure expires Friday at midnight. Over in the Senate, Craig Kaplan, our Capitol Hill producer, tweeting 51 to 47. The Senate voted on party line to go to conference with the House on the Republican tax reform bill. Also tomorrow, President Trump expected to meet with congressional leadership, the White House issuing a statement earlier saying the president looks forward to a productive discussion with Republican and Democrat leadership tomorrow. And the president is pleased that Senator Schumer and Representative Pelosi have decided to put their responsibility to the American people above partisanship. Some of the statement from the White House, the president earlier announcing that the U.S. will recognize officially Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. You can see that event later in our schedule. Also, you can find it online at cspan.org.
For consideration of the bill H.R. 477 to amend the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 to exempt from registration brokers performing services in connection with the transfer of ownership of smaller privately held companies, providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 3971 to amend the Truth in Lending Act and the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act of 1974 to modify the requirements for community financial institutions with respect to certain rules relating to mortgage loans and for other purposes, and providing for consideration of the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 123, making further continuing appropriations for fiscal year 2018 and for other purposes.
Referred to the House calendar and ordered printed. The chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition? Without objection. House will be in order, please.
Please take your conversations off the floor. The House will be in order. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate the Batavia High School Bulldog football team on winning the Illinois Class 7A state championship, holding off the undefeated Lake Zurich Bears and winning the thrilling final in overtime. The team ended the season with an overall 13-1 record. Crucial to the victory was quarterback Riley Cooper. The senior completed 28 of 42 passes for 295 yards and 3 touchdowns in the championship game. The final score was a 10-yard touchdown pass to Tommy Stuttle in overtime, securing the 21-14 win at Husky Stadium in DeKalb. Leading the team throughout the great regular season and playoff run was Coach Dennis Perron, who has headed the team since 2010 and who is a 1983 Batavia graduate. This is the school's first state championship since 2013. Students who cheered their siblings and friends on in 2013 Bulldog team are now carrying the torch and celebrating their own victory and members of the 2017 team. Congratulations, Batavia Bulldogs, past and present, for your achievements. Your success is well deserved. And I yield back.
The gentlewoman from California. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California seek recognition? Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the extraordinary life and legacy of my dear friend Naomi Lauder, who died on December 4th in her beloved San Francisco. Naomi lived her life in the spirit of Tikkun Olam, dedicated to making the world a better place by fighting for values, ideas, and issues we all hold most dear. Born and raised in San Francisco, Naomi attended Lowell High School, UC Berkeley, and San Francisco State. Her parents, Rose and Louis Etzokin, were prominent leaders in the San Francisco Jewish community. Their activism, particularly that of her mother, who brought food, entertainment, and joy to America's servicemen, members in San Francisco during World War II, inspired Naomi's own commitment to the causes of equality and justice. Naomi's political activism began in the 1950s in the civil rights and labor movements, most prominently working with Cesar Chavez and the farm workers. Her grassroots organizing and mobilizing helped in the fight to end segregation and to expand access to quality education for all. Her commitment to upholding the dignity of every person knew no bounds. Naomi and her husband of 61 years, Bob, were fierce supporters of Israel and worked tirelessly to strengthen U.S.-Israel relationship. Naomi was a pillar of the San Francisco Jewish community, where she was dedicated to forging connections between young Jewish Americans and the State of Israel. Her leadership in spearheading the San Francisco Holocaust Memorial and training generations of volunteers around the country will benefit the Jewish community for years to come. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I say that many political and civic leaders depended on Naomi's wise counsel, and with her passing have lost a dear friend. We all profoundly miss her warmth and wonderful leadership. Above all, Naomi was passionate about her family, her husband Bob, and her 4 beautiful children, David, Jonathan, Sarah, and Sam, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. Our families were close neighbors and remained good friends. The Pelosi family was welcome to many Shabbat and Passover Seder dinners with the Lauder family, and they joined us for Christmas. We celebrated together just as we organized and worked together. May it bring comfort to the Lauder family that so many share their sorrow at the passing of this much beloved and inspiring woman. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to make this statement. Thank you.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Minnesota seek recognition? Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, when one thinks of poverty, it's likely they envision poverty in an urban or maybe a rural setting. It may come as a surprise, but poverty in suburban communities is on the rise. In fact, the number of people living in poverty outside of the Twin Cities urban core in Minnesota increased 93% between 2000 and 2015. And the suburbs are often thought of places as comfort, if not wealth. However, when considering suburban areas, it's estimated there are more than 187,000 people in poverty in the Twin Cities. And organizations in our community, like People Reaching Out for Other People, PROP, the Lake Winds Co-op, Southwest News Media, and Chanhassen and DECA students, Mark Self, Brian Taylor, and Alex Walther, are shedding light on the issues of suburban poverty and making a difference. Mr. Speaker, the holiday season that we're in now is a time to come together and think about others who may need a little extra help and generosity. It's the perfect time to start helping neighbors and friends in our communities who are struggling. Awareness is just the first step. Taking action should follow. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition? Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, New Jersey has one of the 10 lowest firearm death rates in the country. That's because the people of my state have set the bar high for public safety. But the bill my Republican colleagues just passed would undermine the will of the people and make New Jersey less safe. Mr. Speaker, in New Jersey, gun owners who want to carry a concealed weapon in public must meet stringent public safety requirements and have a really good reason to carry a concealed weapon loaded while in public. The people of my state can feel secure because they know that the people licensed to carry these guns in public are carrying their guns safely and responsibly. Mr. Speaker, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act is the peak of federal overreach. It is a special interest bill from the NRA that will overturn the laws and undermine the safety of the state of New Jersey. Today's vote was bad for New Jersey and bad for our nation.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Speaker,
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, when we turn on the tap, clean water flows out and we hardly even think about it. Same thing happens when we turn on the shower, flush the toilet. But for a lot of the world, this just isn't true. According to USAID, over 700 million people lack dependable access to clean water. But it's not just water. 1 in 3 people don't have access to a toilet. Many don't know the basic hygiene practices. As a result, 800 million children a day die. However, progress has been made. The Water for the World Act that Representative Blumenauer and I have authored in the 1300th Congress made great strides to guarantee safe water, sanitation, and hygiene to everyone. But there's still work to be done. 80% of the countries receiving aid report water issues remain. The poorest still lack water and sanitation. With our God-given resources, we have an obligation and a privilege to make sure people receive the basic of life, clean water. And that's just the way it is. I'll yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New Jersey seek recognition? Without objection.
Next week is the 5th anniversary of the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Just over 2 months ago, a mass shooter took the lives of 58 at a concert in Las Vegas. And 31 days ago, Sutherland Springs, Texas was changed forever. But just minutes ago, my Republican colleagues memorialized those deaths by passing a bill that would increase the risk of this happening in communities like yours and mine. To pass a bill written by the NRA at the expense of the safety and security of residents and law enforcement is an absolute disgrace. To allow people, including those with dangerous histories, to carry hidden loaded guns anywhere across the country is simply shameful. First, by stripping healthcare, and now this, it seems that the Republican agenda is fostering death over life. With that, I yield back.
For what purpose does a gentlewoman from New York seek recognition? Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to support H.R. 38, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017, which passed the House with just a bipartisan vote a few moments ago. As the representative of a district with a large number of law-abiding firearm owners, I know many individuals who have concealed carry permits who use their firearm for personal protection. This common sense measure would also allow qualified law-abiding citizens who have obtained concealed carry permits to carry their firearms across state lines and in other states. Since 1991, the number of concealed carry permits has increased dramatically, while the violent crime rates have dropped nearly 51%, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Actually, additionally, the fix on the so-called NICS provision of the legislation would add an extra layer of accountability to the National Instant Criminal Background Check system for individuals who are legally prohibited from obtaining a firearm. As one of the leading advocates for Second Amendment rights in New York State, I was the first to introduce a full repeal of Governor Andrew Cuomo's gun-grabbing so-called SAFE Act. I firmly believe that our Second Amendment rights are God-given by the Constitution and something we need to defend each and every day. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Colorado seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I do now move that the House adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow for morning hour debate.
The House today rejected articles of impeachment against President Trump filed by Texas Democrat Al Green. This was his second impeachment attempt. Members also approved a bill to let gun owners with concealed carry permits carry their weapons across state lines and wear their guns in other states that allow concealed weapons. Negotiations continue on 2018 federal spending. Current spending authority runs out Friday night. A measure that will keep the government operating for another 2 weeks is expected on the House floor tomorrow. Live coverage when the House returns here on C-SPAN. As we just mentioned, the House today voted to kill Congressman Al Green's efforts to impeach President Trump. That vote was 364 to 58. All 58 lawmakers opposing the motion were Democrats, as were 4 others who voted present. Shortly before the vote, the top 2 House Democrats, Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Whip Steny Hoyer, issued a joint statement opposing the impeachment effort. Here's Congressman Green on the floor today reading his articles of impeachment.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I'm accorded the preeminent privilege of addressing the House. I consider this one of the great honors of my life to be able to address the House of Representatives. And today, after this 1-minute remark, Mr. Speaker, I will present a privileged resolution. I want to thank the many persons, especially my staff, who have assisted in the drafting and crafting of this resolution. I'm grateful to the many persons who have supported me in many ways. And Mr. Speaker, with that, I will yield back the balance of my time. And Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intention to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. Am I recognized, Mr. Speaker?
You may proceed.
Thank you. Impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, of high misdemeanors. Resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is unfit to be president and is impeached for high misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States in the name of itself and of the people of the United States against Donald John Trump, President of the United States, in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for high misdemeanors committed as president, constituting harm to American society to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Article 1. In his capacity as President of the United States, unmindful of the high duties of his high office, and the dignity and proprieties thereof, and of the harmony and courtesies necessary for stability within the society of the United States, Donald John Trump has, with his statements, done more than incite individuals and groups of Americans, more than insult individuals and groups of Americans. He has harmed the society of the United States, brought shame and dishonor to the office of President of the United States, sowing discord among the people of the United States by associating the majesty and dignity of the presidency with causes rooted in white supremacy, bigotry, racism, anti-Semitism, white nationalism, or neo-Nazism on one or more of the following occasions. On August 15, 2017, Donald John Trump made a widely published statement criticizing characterizing a group of anti-Semites, bigots, racists, white nationalists, and Ku Klux Klansmen who rallied in Charlottesville, Virginia, as very fine people. On August 7, 2017, hate groups returned to Charlottesville, Virginia. At the statue of Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general, chanting, "You will not replace us." Since this event on October 7, the president has made many widely published statements about many things, including the National Football League, but has not made one widely published statement condemning the hate groups for returning to the place where an innocent person lost her life at the hands of hate. On November 29, 2017, Donald John Trump shared 3 videos posted by a leader of a British political party considered by many to be an extremist group. The videos purported to show various violent acts committed by Muslims and were entitled Muslim migrant beats up Dutch boy and on crutches. Let me restate that. Muslim migrant beats up Dutch boy on crutches. Muslim destroys a statue of Virgin Mary, and Islamist mob pushes teenage boy off roof and beats him to death. The clearly inferable intent of the post of Muslim immigrants to engage in violent acts, even if the videos show what they purport to show. And sharing these videos with his 43,800,000 followers on Twitter, Donald John Trump's dissemination of such material evinces an invidious intent to create division within American society. In all of this, the aforementioned Donald John Trump, by his statements, unmindful of the high duties of his high office and the dignities and proprieties thereof, and of the harmony, respect, and courtesies necessary for stability within the society of the United States, has undermined the integrity of his office and has sown discord among the people of the United States, has brought disrepute, contempt, ridicule, and disgrace on the presidency, has acted in a manner antithetical to the cause of a just society.
All right, guys, so there you have it. We've just watched it go through, and let's see what happens from here. But enough of listening to that guy talk. I can't do it. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. If you don't know, there are ways to call, write letters, make sure that everybody knows your feelings on these bills and what we should do moving forward. I will get to the bottom of everything. I promise to have more information the next time I go live and share my findings with you all. I try and get as much information as I can, and the things that I don't understand, I actually do have lawyers that I can call, friends that I grew up with that will answer my questions for certain things and break it down for me so that I can break it down for you, so that we can actually have a discussion where we all understand what's actually being said and what's actually being done. Though we know a lot is never actually done by these folks that parade around in their suits, shaking hands and slam hammers on the table. There's a lot to be done with this republic, but let's fight the good fight. Let's maintain our power as the people. And I hope you all out there having fun, being safe, and also being responsible. Later.